A single plant that produces 50,000 seeds every season grows in soil where nothing else survives and returns year after year without ever needing to be replanted. This grain fed the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, sustained families through the darkest years of the 20th century, and contains more complete protein than almost any other plant on Earth. Colonial governments banned it for 300 years, and modern industrial agriculture pretends it doesn't exist. The seed is called amaranth, and once you understand why it disappeared from our farms and gardens, you'll understand everything wrong with how we grow food today. Before European ships reached the Americas, the Aztec Empire harvested between 15 and 20,000 tons of amaranth every single year. Farmers paid taxes to emperors in amaranth grain. Priests used it in their most sacred ceremonies. Mothers fed it to children because nothing else provided such complete nutrition from a single source. The crop thrived in conditions that killed corn and beans, producing abundantly on marginal land that couldn't support other agriculture. Amaranth wasn't just food for the Aztecs. It was survival insurance, religious sacrament, and economic foundation all combined into one remarkable plant. Then, in 1519, Spanish conquistadors arrived on the coast of Mexico, and within a single generation, this grain that had sustained millions of people for thousands of years nearly vanished from the earth entirely. The colonial authorities didn't just conquer the Aztec people, they systematically dismantled the agricultural system that gave those people independence and resilience. Number 1. What makes amaranth extraordinary? The nutritional profile of amaranth separates it from every other grain humans have ever cultivated at scale. Most grains provide incomplete protein, meaning they lack one or more of the 9 essential amino acids that human bodies cannot manufacture internally. Wheat runs low in lysine. Rice runs low in lysine. Corn lacks adequate lysine and tryptophan both. People surviving primarily on these grains eventually develop protein deficiencies unless they supplement with beans, meat, or other protein sources. Amaranth breaks this pattern completely. The protein content ranges from 13 to 15%, exceeding wheat and far surpassing rice. And that protein is complete. All 9 essential amino acids appear in proportions the human body can actually absorb and utilize. The lysine content is particularly remarkable, providing what other grains cannot deliver. For communities with limited access to meat or dairy, amaranth alone prevents the protein deficiency that stunts children and weakens adults. The mineral density reinforces this nutritional power substantially. Iron levels exceed most grains significantly, addressing the anemia affecting billions of grain-dependent people worldwide. Calcium content surpasses wheat and rice considerably, supporting bone health without requiring dairy products. Magnesium, phosphorus, manganese, and zinc all appear in meaningful quantities that contribute to overall health. Beyond the seeds, the leaves provide a second food source from the same planting. Amaranth leaves prepare like spinach, wilting quickly when cooked and providing vitamins and minerals, while the plant continues growing towards seed production. A single planting feeds families twice, first through ongoing leaf harvest and later through grain collection. The plant contains no gluten whatsoever, making it safe for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. In an era when gluten-free options command premium prices, amaranth offers complete nutrition without the inflammation that gluten triggers in susceptible individuals. Number 2, the agricultural miracle. The growing characteristics of amaranth explain why it sustained civilizations through conditions that would have caused mass starvation with any other staple crop. This plant doesn't just tolerate difficult conditions, it thrives in environments that defeat corn, wheat, and rice entirely. Drought tolerance stands as perhaps the most valuable characteristic for an uncertain climate future. Amaranth uses C4 photosynthesis, the same efficient metabolic pathway that makes corn productive, but it handles water stress dramatically better than corn ever could. Established amaranth plants survive dry spells that would desiccate a cornfield completely. When summer rains fail and wells run dry, amaranth keeps producing while other crops wither. Soil requirements barely exist compared to demanding crops like corn or wheat. Amaranth extracts nutrition from ground that would starve other plants. Marginal land, depleted soil, rocky hillsides, where tractors cannot operate, all of these can produce amaranth when nothing else will grow. Farmers working degraded acreage can harvest meaningful food from ground that conventional agriculture would abandon entirely. The growing season spans merely 90 to 120 days from planting to harvest. This short window allows cultivation across diverse climates, from tropical lowlands to mountain valleys. Some varieties handle light frost without damage. Others tolerate extreme heat that would stress most vegetables. The adaptability enables production from Mexico to Nepal, from African highlands to American prairies. The self-seeding behavior transforms a single planting into perpetual harvest. One amaranth plant produces 40 to 60,000 seeds at maturity. Allow even a small fraction of those seeds to fall at season's end, and they germinate the following spring without any human intervention required. The crop returns automatically, asking nothing from the farmer except showing up to harvest. Plant amaranth once and harvest it forever. This characteristic alone explains why certain powerful interests wanted this crop eliminated from human agriculture permanently. Number 3, the Spanish suppression. When Hernán Cortés and his conquistadors completed their conquest of the Aztec Empire in 1521, they faced a challenge that military victory alone couldn't solve. The Aztec people possessed an agricultural system that provided complete nutritional independence. As long as that system remained intact, the conquered population retained the foundation for resistance and eventual rebellion. Amaranth stood at the center of this threatening independence. The grain appeared in the most important Aztec religious ceremonies, mixed with honey to form figures of deities, and consumed in rituals that bound communities together spiritually. The Spanish Catholic authorities viewed these ceremonies as pagan abominations that had to be eliminated along with the indigenous religion they expressed. The colonial government issued bans on amaranth cultivation throughout the conquered territories. Growing amaranth became a punishable offense. Possessing amaranth demonstrated defiance of colonial authority. The suppression targeted not just a food crop, but the entire agricultural knowledge system that allowed indigenous communities to feed themselves without depending on their conquerors. Simultaneously, Spanish authorities promoted European crops as replacements. Wheat would replace amaranth in the colonial vision. Farmers who cooperated with the new agricultural order received favor. Those who maintained traditional crops faced consequences ranging from fines to imprisonment to worse. The suppression succeeded almost completely across most of the former Aztec territory. Within a few generations, amaranth went from dietary staple to obscure memory. The knowledge of cultivation techniques, seed selection, harvest timing, and preparation methods disappeared as elders died without passing traditions to children forbidden from practicing them. Number 4, why modern agriculture rejected amaranth. The colonial suppression eventually ended, but amaranth never returned to widespread cultivation. Industrial agriculture emerged in the 20th century with priorities and structures that excluded crops like amaranth just as effectively as Spanish colonial policy had, though through economic mechanisms rather than explicit prohibition. The seed industry operates on a business model requiring annual purchases. Farmers buy seed each spring, grow their crops, sell the harvest, and purchase new seed the following year. Hybrid varieties accelerated this model because hybrid seeds don't breed true, forcing farmers to buy rather than save. Genetically modified varieties added patent protection that made seed saving legally prohibited rather than merely economically disadvantaged. Amaranth destroys this business model completely. A single plant produces 50,000 seeds, far more than any farmer could ever use. Saving seed requires no special technique or equipment. The crop volunteers itself the following year, even without intentional seed saving. No rational seed company would invest in developing, marketing, or promoting a crop that eliminates customers permanently after a single purchase. Research funding followed commercial incentives. Wheat, corn, rice, and soybeans received billions in agricultural research investment. Scientists developed improved varieties, disease resistance, and yield optimization for crops that generated ongoing revenue. Amaranth received essentially nothing because improving it benefited no corporate interest. Number 5, the quiet survival and modern rediscovery. Despite centuries of suppression and decades of industrial neglect, amaranth never disappeared entirely. The same characteristics that made it threatening to colonial authorities and irrelevant to seed companies made it precious to families seeking genuine food independence. Mexican mountain communities maintained continuous cultivation throughout the colonial period and beyond. Traditional foods like alegria, a confection made from popped amaranth seeds bound with honey, remained beloved in regions where indigenous food culture survived. Day of the Dead celebrations continued featuring amaranth skulls, honoring departed ancestors using the same grain those ancestors had eaten for millennia. Indian and Nepali farmers preserved parallel traditions around different amaranth species. Called Rajgira or Ramdana in Hindi, amaranth became associated with Hindu religious fasting periods, when other grains were forbidden. This religious protection ensured continuous cultivation, even when purely agricultural considerations might have caused abandonment. Scientific rediscovery began in the 1970s when researchers recognized the exceptional nutritional profile that indigenous peoples had known for thousands of years. The National Academy of Sciences identified amaranth as an underexploited crop with significant potential in a 1975 report examining promising plants. The Rodale Research Center conducted extensive studies through the 1970s and 1980s, publishing results that gradually spread through organic farming networks. The gluten-free movement accelerated consumer awareness dramatically. People with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity need grain alternatives desperately, and amaranth provides complete nutrition without triggering inflammatory reactions. Health food stores began stocking amaranth products. Specialty farmers found premium markets. The infrastructure that doesn't exist for commodity-scale production proved unnecessary for niche markets willing to pay for nutritional quality. Number 6, why this matters now, and conclusion. The case for growing amaranth strengthens every year as the industrial food system reveals its fundamental weaknesses to anyone paying attention. Climate change is intensifying drought across major agricultural regions worldwide. Aquifers that irrigate grain production are depleting faster than rainfall replenishes them. Crops requiring abundant water become increasingly unreliable. Amaranth tolerates drought that destroys corn and wheat, producing food when other options fail. Supply chain vulnerabilities exposed during recent global disruptions demonstrated how dependent modern food systems have become on complex logistics, spanning continents. Seeds travel from corporate breeding facilities to regional distributors to local retailers to farms in chains that can break at any point. Crops that return year after year without purchased inputs provide resilience that supply chain dependent agriculture cannot match. Protein security concerns are mounting as populations grow, while meat production faces environmental constraints. Plant-based complete protein sources become more valuable as demand increases and supply limitations tighten. Amaranth provides what most grains simply cannot deliver nutritionally. Seed sovereignty movements are questioning why farmers must purchase seeds annually from corporations when agriculture functions successfully for 10,000 years on farmer-saved seed. Crops that enable seed saving become tools of independence rather than dependence. Amaranth doesn't just enable seed saving, it practically forces it through sheer abundance. One grain that produces 50,000 seeds from every plant grows where nothing else survives, returns year after year without replanting, and provides complete protein rivaling meat. The Spanish banned it because it made indigenous people too independent. Industrial agriculture ignores it because it makes farmers too independent. Perhaps that independence is exactly what we need. The seed that fed families forever is still available. The only question is whether we're ready to start planting it again. Thanks for watching.